That's what you want to see.
Hi, Paul.
Hey Chris, how are you? Got a
Good, how are
camera
you?
lens here. Getting a little halo effect, which is not deserved in my case.
Huh.
Hey Lindsay,
Hello, how are you, Paul?
I'm great, thank you.
Should have mine.
I'll do the recorder for you, Molly. Morning.
Mr. Hake. No donuts? Huh,
Did you bring it?
no,
You didn't get the memo?
I'm off donuts the whole month. The whole month? Yep. Why? Change name tag. Oh, right.
But
I
it's
should.
trying.
It's fine.
You're being very patient. And not getting clicked out.
my
No, it's good. Your
laptop. I don't know, Tech Legion just did a full, like, wiped it, restarted it, and it's been better since then, but
Okay. Oh, yeah, I forgot you put that.
I think it's working, I think it's just
Yeah.
like not working for
It
me.
usually says though on here though, it shows that it's, oh, there we go, recording. Perfect. You get the warning that it's being recorded.
Yeah.
Okay, oh,
And then-
So I should have my webcam, my microphone
oh,
off, right?
yes, otherwise we get that.
Cool. All right, Mr. Briggs,
Howdy,
greetings.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Let's see, so we've got 4 committee members. That is one short of a quorum.
We got enough minutes. Or no, it's 11 now. Well, that's you.
We need one more person to start the meeting anyway.
So, so as I told James here, I'm expecting James, the only committee member we're expecting in person today. Craig Armark is certainly planning to join the meeting, but he'll be remote. I'm expecting the mayor to be in the meeting in person today. And so anyway, there's Craig. Welcome, Craig. Do either of, does anybody on the call know about Murray Danforth's plans today?
I do not.
Okay. There's, all right, Liz Rocco. Okay.
I can call him if you want.
Oh,
Here, I'll just send him a text.
Jen will send him a text. Yep, that's great. We'll let Liz get signed in. Can we tell how signed in Liz is? Can you like move?
She's there.
There she is. Okay.
Thanks, Liz. Should
Steve Levy. Okay, cool.
we start recording?
I think we should start recording. Yeah. All right, well, welcome everybody. I really appreciate everybody's time today. sent out meeting materials over the last couple days. I think I offered in my email that that is a little short of our normal standard of providing materials at least 3 business days in advance of our public meetings. Our public meetings are generally on Wednesdays, so that usually means we're sending out materials by Friday. So we will shoot for that in the future, and I appreciate y'all for following along as we get this committee fired up. So yeah, I sent out materials. Those included an agenda, a committee charter, and then this slide deck that I have on the screen here. I think I'm mostly going to share this slide deck. It loosely follows the agenda. So we can certainly pull up the charter, which is the only other item if y'all would like that. So I'm going to call the meeting to order here. I'll run through the first couple agenda items. The second agenda item is discussion and action to appoint a chair. Actually, need to appoint a vice chair as well per the charter, which we can discuss. So after this second agenda item, I'll turn the gavel, as it were, over to whomever we select to be the chair. So without further ado, I will call this first official meeting of the Town of Alta Capital Committee to order at 11:03 on Wednesday, July 15th. I thought we'd just start with some quick introductions. We can start off with who's in person in the room here. So if you wanna just go around our council table here, and Molly, you can introduce yourself.
Yes, hi, my name is Molly Austin. I'm the assistant town manager, and I'm here to support the committee in whatever way I can.
Thanks, Molly. So I'm Chris Colley. I'm the town manager.
Jen Clancy, town clerk.
Jim Crosby, Blackjack resident
Thanks, Jim, and committee member.
and committee member.
And we have a member of the public in the audience today,
MC Hake.
MC Haig.
Good morning.
Oh, okay. All right. I am expecting the mayor to join, as I said, and Town Marshal Mike Morey, the police department's had a very busy couple weeks, but he should be here by about 11:30 or so. So that's in person here, and I'll just sort of go down the tiles on the Zoom call. We've got Lindsay.
Hello.
Hi, Lindsay. Paul.
Yeah, I'm here. Hi.
Okay, we've got Scott Briggs
All right here.
and Mr. Highmark. Okay, Liz. Hi, Liz. Good to see you. Your audio is muted, but that's okay. And we've got committee member Steve Levy. Thanks for joining.
Hi, everybody. I'm right here.
Okay, and we've got the mayor entering the room just now.
And Murray is trying to connect. I'm trying to help him problem solve.
Oh, great. Okay. All right. So I should note, I know that Rosie O'Grady, committee member, president of the Alta Lodge, was I believe embarking on a river trip today, so she's unable to join today's meeting. Any other opening questions or remarks from committee members before we get going on the agenda? Okay, great. Well, then, moving down the agenda, our first order of business is to discuss the committee charter adopted by the council recently. During this agenda item, we will take action to appoint a chair and a vice chair. The vice chair was not specified on the agenda, but the charter does call for the committee to select one. And then we will select member terms. So the charter, as we'll discuss, calls for members to sort of have staggered terms, and we can talk about that more in a moment. So our committee charter, on the right here, we've got a picture of the July 8th council meeting. I think that's Mayor Burke up on the dais there, and Councilmember Highmark in the orange. I don't know if that's a coat, and I think that's me with the yellow vest. I can't tell where Jen is in this photograph, but at any rate, over the last couple council meetings, really the last 4 or even 5 council meetings. The town council has been discussing this committee, appointing its members, talking about its purpose, and it all sort of culminated in the adoption of a formal charter for the meeting, or for the committee rather, last week on the 8th. It's a pretty basic document. It establishes the committee's authority, articulates its purpose, and provides some basic ground rules for how we operate meetings and so forth. The key part is the purpose statement. It's pretty straightforward. The purpose of the committee is to review proposals for major capital improvements developed by the town to improve or replace our buildings, elements of our culinary water system, and our sewer system. And we're also looking for the committee to review various options to fund those capital improvements and then provide recommendations to the council for all of those things. Looks like we've got Murray joining. Hey,
Oh,
Murray,
did, okay, good.
good to have you. Okay, so some other highlights from the charter, like I mentioned, it calls for members to each have a sort of a length of term, and for those to be staggered. That's essentially so we can avoid having everybody leave the committee at once and have to make however many appointments all at once. Duties and responsibilities really mirror the purpose. We're reviewing and making recommendations for capital improvements and budgets, funding options. I will highlight that as we've talked about getting this committee together in our kind of capital projects approach on the town council for the last couple years, it's always been in the context of the town's long range financial situation. So we need to make some big investments now. As we contemplate funding sources, we want to just do that in light of what our ongoing needs are for things like staffing and operations. What's the local economy like, and so forth. Committee members must disclose conflicts of interest on the record. This is due to your service on a public body. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Amongst the absences from today's meeting is the town attorney. I don't think this is anything we really need to worry about too much. It's a small town. Some of our committee members are property owners and taxpayers. Some are voters. Some are employees of local businesses in town, and that's really common to all of us who participate in the town. So if you have more questions about that, those of you on the committee, we can certainly get you in touch with our attorney, and we'll have the attorney at future meetings. The council calls for a council member to be the liaison. Craig Highmark was appointed in I believe it was the June meeting. Was it last meeting? Yeah, okay, so it was last week. The council appointed Craig. The charter calls for the committee to select a chair and a vice chair, and for the committee to comply with the Open and Public Meetings Act. We've talked about this over the past couple months. Later down in the slide deck, as you may have seen, we have a little bit of material about the Open and Public Meetings Act. A quorum of the committee is required to have a meeting in the first place, and to take action. The formal action we envision the committee taking, other than to appoint a chair and vice chair, is really to approve minutes. The committee doesn't have formal authority based on the charter to do anything other than make recommendations and advise the council. That's no small thing. It just doesn't necessarily have legal weight. And then the council, the council's in charge. The council can review the charter and amend it as necessary. Any questions on the charter? Want to have it up on the screen to look through it at all?
No, I've read it carefully, and I'm very happy to see that it uses the word advisory multiple times. So presumably that shields us to some degree from liability if one of our citizens gets bent out of shape.
Yep, that's right. It's an advisory body. The council makes the decisions.
Yep, sounds good.
So so we do need to, take some action on the record. Molly is, taking notes and will be producing minutes for this meeting. So we've got a couple things to do. We need to, appoint a chair and also a vice chair. This is one I'd like for us to, have somebody, make a motion, to appoint a chair and then make a motion to appoint a vice chair of the Town of Alta Capital Committee. You can say it however you want, but there's a bit of a script on the slide here. And then, we'll need to talk about this matter of staggered terms. We have some, sort of, more or less a bucket of tickets on the table to make some random drawings, if that's what folks would prefer. If anybody wants to volunteer to serve a one or 2 year term, we can do it that way. It's really up to the committee. We've not, I haven't gotten yet to the point of, public participation in meetings. We do have, an item on the agenda for public comment. That's kind of just boilerplate Town of Alta public meeting, agenda material.
James, did you just join the meeting? Did you just join the meeting?
Okay.
Did something change?
It could be me. Sorry, guys, just getting some feedback on share.
Yeah, if you get two audio feeds in the same room, either a phone and a computer or two computers, that's a problem.
It'd just be the mic on your computer is too close.
Yeah, it's just that it's muted. Does that sound better?
Yep.
That solved it.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
you fixed the problem.
All right, so we just, we need to have a sort of, public comment or public engagement, policy or practice for this committee. In council meetings and planning commission meetings, we have an item on the agenda. Folks are provided, 3 minutes to make a comment. Sometimes in those meetings, the chair of the meeting, either the planning commission chair or the mayor will, sort of allow for additional comments and discussion or call on people. The key thing is to have a standard for participation and then treat everybody, by that standard. So anyway, these are the things we need to discuss. We need to appoint a chair and a vice chair, figure out committee member terms, and then talk a little bit about public comments in the meetings. So I think the easy way to do it would just be to call for a nomination for someone to serve as the committee chair. If anybody is interested, you can speak up and make a case, or if anybody's got a nomination in mind.
Can you speak up if you're not interested?
My tenure on the committee might be short, so because my home is under agreement. So I should not be in any official role.
Thanks, Steve. I see a couple unmuted committee members on my screen right now. I see Mr. Mader, Mr. Briggs, and Ms. Deolos.
I nominate Mr. Mader. I think he has the most experience running meetings and being in charge of lots of things.
Yeah, I second that.
Okay, so I think we'll consider that a motion in a second. Any discussion on the nomination?
No, if elected, I will serve, but only Briggs is the vice chair.
I think I could handle that, Paul.
You're unmuted.
Okay, well, all those in favor of Paul Mader serving as committee chair, please say
Yes.
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 4,
Yes.
5. Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it.
Did I didn't hear Lindsay. Or I mean, sorry, Liz. Did she vote or is she muted?
Liz,
Maybe
did you
she can
wanna,
do a thumbs up or thumbs down.
You need to say a
Okay,
verbal yes.
can you hear me now?
Oh, there you go.
yes,
Yeah.
Okay, can you see me? I'm sorry, I'm definitely just cruxing out on my technology, but I got it on my phone and I can see me, but when I go to my picture on the Zoom, it's just black. Or can you guys see me?
You look
No,
great.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
You look as good as
Okay,
you
yeah,
do on
so
your
that all
phone.
sounds good. I vote yes.
all right. Okay, it's unanimous. Do we have a motion to nominate a vice chair?
I think you just
Yeah.
called that.
I
A
move,
vice
Is
chair,
there a motion?
Mr. Mayor?
yeah, I move to nominate Scott Briggs.
Okay, a
Second.
second? All
Who
right,
was the second?
Murray. Any discussion? All those in favor? Say aye, say yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Unanimous, okay, we've got a chair and a vice chair. On to the matter of, well, Mr. Mayor, would you like to take over?
Yeah, sure, I'd love to. So the meeting's
Okay.
already been called to order.
Yes, it
Chris,
has.
I'd like to turn the meeting to you for you to
Okay.
lead us through your agenda. Thank you.
I really didn't imagine this as being like a Robert's Rules kind of a thing, but hopefully we can just, because I'm certainly not an expert, but anyway, so committee member terms, the charter calls for us to have staggered terms. We can do it a couple ways. Like I said, we've got some little sheets of paper with names on them. We can make random drawings. If anybody wants to serve for 1 or 2 years, let us know. Let me know.
I think it would make sense for Paul and myself to be a 2-year term.
Okay,
Yeah, and it would make sense for me to be 1 year since I may have to drop out sooner anyway.
okay,
And I'll do 2 years
yeah, all right.
Was that Lindsay?
Yep,
Yeah,
so
for Lindsay.
we've got 3 for 2, and we've got Steve, and we've got 1 for 1.
We'll do 2.
2.
Okay,
How about
I
I
can
need-
do too.
That's 4, so I think everyone else would just.
yeah, I think so.
Because there's a,
Paul, Scott, Lindsay, and Jim would be 2, and 1 would be Steve, Liz, Rocco, Murray Danforth, and Rosie, who's not with us today.
Yeah,
I'll
so
do 2 because I need to annoy Scott and Paul.
That's fine. Yeah, we can have 5 and 3. I don't necessarily see a reason why it has to be even. I know you guys are a little bit of a unit, so sorry, I shouldn't say that.
Can I object to Murray being able to annoy us? Apparently not.
Okay, well, does that sound okay to everybody? So for 2-year terms, we've got Paul, Scott, Lindsay, Jim, and Murray. For 1-year terms, we have Steve, Liz, and Rosie. I don't see any
Yeah,
reason
it sounds
why,
good if you.
committee members engaging in honorable service would not be reappointed. And we'll talk going forward about, the duration of this committee, the committee's lifespan and meeting schedules and all that, so. Okay, can we have a little discussion on public comment? So, like I said, we need to have a,
motion and second on that, on the terms. What's your opinion?
I hadn't envisioned it,
I think everyone.
yeah, I think everyone consents to it, and so I'm fine with the minutes as I can see Molly writing up the minutes and they look adequate. So public comment.
the charter says we can have up to 10 members. So if we add 2 more members soon, we can make them 1-year members. If we add 2 more members in a year, we can make them 2-year members and we'll be nicely staggered.
The council needs members.
Indeed, yep, and as Jen just reminded us, the council makes those appointments, so. Yes, you did. Yes, to great fanfare, Jen, yeah. Yeah, so, if folks are interested in serving on the committee, they can contact me, they can contact the mayor, and we can take it to the council.
Sounds good.
So on public comment, the way the agenda is now, it essentially provides us that, the same structure and policy as we follow in the council meetings and planning commission meetings. So I think for now, it makes sense for us to just continue to have that item on the agenda. And, we'll have that time reserved for public comment. And generally speaking, efficient, in the name of efficient meetings, we generally try in our council and planning commission meetings to limit public comment, or not necessarily invite it, but also not, in our typical style to like strictly prohibit it. So my recommendation would be to assume that we have that public comment item on the agenda with a, roughly 3-minute window of time for individuals to make comments. And then proceed through the meetings, generally with conversations being between committee members. And then folks can, the chair or other committee members can call on audience members to ask questions or make comments as needed. Does that sound coherent?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that does it for this agenda item. Mr. Chair, I don't know if you want to introduce the next agenda item.
Yeah,
If you'd like me
let's
to
go.
keep going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Chris, you're doing a brilliant job. Don't stop.
All right, I've got a water bottle and some snacks. So for you guys are missing a pretty, for by our standards, robust array of pretzels, fig bars, and trail mix packets, Kirkland brand. Yeah, these have been a staple for a long time. Okay, so the Open and Public Meetings Act, everybody's favorite topic in government. OPMA. The little cartoon on the right is from I think I've seen this in a number of different presentations about the Open and Public Meetings Act. And if you haven't read it, it says, all those in favor of what we discussed in our email thread at Larry's son's birthday party say aye. And then the people in the meeting say, what are they talking about? So the Open and Public Meetings Act governs, pretty much everything we do at the town, especially with respect to our formal public bodies, the Town Council, the Planning Commission, the Budget Committee, and this committee. And the gist of it is to ensure the public's business is conducted in public. This little excerpt from state code is provided at the beginning of the code section, providing the Open and Public Meetings Act. So we are going to run the committee according to the Open and Public Meetings Act, because the committee is a public body under state code. A public body is any administrative, advisory, executive, or legislative body of the state or its political subdivisions that is created by really any act of the government, consists of more than 2 individuals, is supported in whole or in part by tax revenue, and is vested with authority to make decisions about public business. So we are an advisory body of a political subdivision in the state of Utah. That's the town. We're created by resolution of the council, got more than 2 members. We're supported in whole or in part by tax revenue, essentially because we have town staff up here using a public facility to support the committee proceedings. And the committee has authority to make advisory decisions, but to be cautious, we assume that this qualifies under Part D, qualifies the committee as a public body. So some highlights from the Open Public Meetings Act. Members of any public body, including this committee, must receive annual training. It's actually the responsibility of the chair to ensure that requirement is met, but certainly staff can collaborate on that. I have a link in the slides here to Utah State Auditor webpage with a course where you can take Open Public Meetings Act training. I know Craig Highmark has done our in-person trainings and may have done this before, and certainly the mayor has probably a half dozen times a year at the various committees he serves on. So I just asked the committee to please, follow up on this link and just go through the slides. It's pretty, it's not heavy lifting. It takes about 10 minutes. So.
If you do take the course though, you do need to create an account.
Okay.
But then it tracks your training and your certificates, and there is a ton of excellent trainings via that link
Yes.
for people that.
Yeah, you want to take them lest the state auditor could come after you. So the state auditor is not going to come after you guys. They're going to come after me. So, so a key part of the Open and Public Meetings Act is that agendas are posted in advance. Within 24 hours, we did better than squeaking this one under the wire. Like I said, we typically get that done further in advance. So staff really takes care of all of this. Agendas posted within 24 hours. We'll take minutes, adopt them at the next meeting. And then we take recordings. That's part of the official record. For committee members, we want to be wary of the effect of a quorum. So it is required to have a quorum for a meeting. The committee should avoid discussing business outside of an open meeting, and an email becomes a meeting when a quorum deliberates on committee business via email. So please avoid doing that. Chance encounters and social events are fine. You don't have to, stay home from the Powder Ridge New Year's Eve party, and you can ride the Sunnyside 6-pack together with no problems. Just again, avoid extensive deliberations on committee business. Any questions about?
Yes, I have a question. With Paul and I supposedly having to organize things prior to a meeting, is that regarded as a deliberation, or is, just where does the line get drawn?
Well, it's less than a quorum. I would encourage individuals to speak with each other. And certainly for more administrative things like, place and time of the meeting, did you see the agenda? There's nothing to be concerned of there. Do you have anything to add on that?
One-on-one is fine.
Yeah.
It's just, I would say any more than one-on-one, I would just be careful of.
Okay.
That's where I would personally draw the line, just to make it easy to follow.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, thanks for that. That's a good question. My way of thinking, I had some back and forth with council members about this, is that we don't need to make a big deal out of this. This is the end of the slides on the OPMA, so hopefully that gives you some confidence in it. Any other questions?
I will point out that committee members shouldn't be texting each other during the meeting.
Right, during these, yep.
That could be tempting, but please don't do that.
That's half the fun of meetings.
I know, that's why I mentioned it.
Fair enough. Yeah, careful with the meeting chat, please. Okay. Mr. Chair, you're comfortable moving into public comment?
I'm incredibly comfortable. If I was any more comfortable, I'd be asleep.
That's a compliment.
Yes, it is.
Members of the public wish to address us today.
Sure, I'll give it a go. Mark Hake. I have been a real property taxpayer since the mid-90s. And in regular attendance at public meetings, as well as participating in public meetings for municipal affairs in the town of Alta since the mid-90s. I have also had a great deal of interest, both personally and professionally, in municipal affairs in both the town of Alta, the Intermountain, the Tri-Canyon area, as well as the neighbors down the road. And so I'm extraordinarily familiar with the public record in this municipality, as well as the public records in their jurisdictional partners. And I previously advocated in meetings this past spring that I be appointed to this body. I'm definitely willing to serve. Seeing that there's slots available, I think I could make a significant contribution to the committee's work. And I would advocate that you appoint me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hake. Anything else?
Just Christopher Barnes, Alpha President, the party broadly in favor of the endeavor to think about the long term and how to finance it, plan and everything will be of use in some way in the future, but this would work into it.
Okay, thanks. Can I call you Christopher?
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, do you have anything to add in this public comment section? Okay, all right. Well, those are our members of those are the individuals in the room, not members of staff or the committee. We do have Mike Morey, who town marshal, who just joined us in the nick of time. So we can move on to the meat of the agenda here. So I've got around 10 slides or a little bit more on this is just going to be a refresher on our capital improvement planning. I do believe everybody on the committee was either, or everybody in the meeting today was either in our special town council meeting in March or joined our little informal gathering to tour Town of Alta facilities a few weeks after that. So hopefully this is not news. Hopefully it's more streamlined and effective perhaps than any other versions of this you might have seen. So as a preface, I just want to start the way I started that presentation in March, which is that, the town has been thinking about replacing this building we're now sitting in for a long time. We've had a number of formal efforts convened to, make a design, and, we've thought about funding along the way. There was, I will attribute a shift in perspective on the town's priorities to the town council that was seated after it would have been the 2021 municipal election. So it was Mayor Burke's first term. In Mayor Burke's first term, the town council developed a lot of energy for long-range financial planning for the town, and recognized what is a pretty urgent need to invest in our existing facilities in order to support the town's longer-term stability, providing the essential municipal services today. So we've pivoted a little bit from the sort of community center dream. It's not that we don't have the dream of large multi-purpose community building at some point in the future. We just recognize that we have all these existing, fundamental municipal services supported by these facilities and these water and sewer assets that we can't continue to provide unless we have sustainable buildings. And so that was a major pivot by the council. I will always take the opportunity to thank Mayor Burke and Councilmember Highmark, who was the treasurer during the mayor's first term, in supporting this, because it is really a fundamental shift in the way the town has approached its assets, and because it's going to cost money, and that's a bit of a lift for the council, and they've had the courage to kind of dive in and continue to support it. So with that, we hired some architects a couple of years ago to create a facilities master plan, a so-called facilities master plan. It was focused on 3 buildings. It did not account for Our Lady of the Snows, The future ownership of Our Lady of the Snows was not a topic of wide, community-wide discussion when we started the project. It barely was at the time we finished the project. So, and of course, the town now owns the facility, but it was not included in this kind of, in the existing conditions analysis, the facility condition assessment, and it was not included in the sort of future space planning exercise. The facilities that were included are our current building. We've rebranded to the post office building because it's, the most sort of public facing aspect of it. So the post office building, Alta Central, which is the Alta Marshal's office, headquarters, and the town office were addressed in the facilities master plan. So the biggest component of the scope of work in the project was a facility condition assessment. We had this team of architects and engineers come up, look at each of our buildings, and assess needs for repair, make cost estimates for those repairs, and then compare those to probable replacement costs. As part of that assessment, the team interviewed town staff about the extent to which existing facilities meet our current needs, and if they don't, what are some specific functional spaces we could add to future facilities to provide the level of service the staff believes is appropriate. So again, we did a repair and replace analysis. The results of that are pretty straightforward. We'll be discussing them. We've got as-built floor plans for the existing facilities. This building we're sitting in now dates to 1984. There's a set of plans in the basement, but it's so faded you can barely read it. Alta Central was built on Fort Douglas during World War II and transported up the canyon in the 50s. There's no floor plans for that. We have a sort of classical blue line of a blueprint for the town office. And now we have these nice digitized as-builts for our existing facilities. So that's a nice deliverable from the project. Finally, we have the test fit space plans and some cost estimates associated with those. These are probably the hottest discussion topics to result from the facilities master plan. It's always risky to do anything like design because it draws attention, it infers a plan or intent to spend and construct. So just at the outset, I want to clarify, I'll come back to this, that the test fit space plans are they're not design documents. They're not design documents. They don't represent any decisions. They are they're conceptual space plans for how the town could, improve its level of service or its sustainability going forward. We have a lot more work to do before we make decisions or have anything truly resembling a design. So the post office, Alta Central, and town office, these are our this is the core of the facilities plan. The post office building we're sitting in now, 4,600 square feet. It's a multi-purpose building. This building has some what I would describe as urgent structural problems. It's had them for a long time. The building took a hit in the big winter of 2023, and we need to tear this building down and replace it. We've intended to do so for a while. We still need to do it. This is the best site. The town does own the land under all three of these buildings we're talking about. It doesn't own the land under Our Lady of the Snows. It's on a Forest Service special use permit. This site is, we believe, our best site for a new building for a couple of reasons. It's roadside. The town office and Alta Central are not roadside. Create some obvious accessibility challenges. And the Alta Central town office complex is exposed to avalanche hazard. So we have reason to believe this site is less exposed. Still need to do an avalanche study. But if it turns out that it's less exposed, that could yield a cheaper cost per square foot. You know, a lot of buildings in the center of town are exposed to avalanches. Those that are built in modern times have a lot of rebar and concrete. A building on this site would also have a lot of rebar and concrete, but we may be able to build here for cheaper. Alpha Central, 3,150 square feet. It's the police department headquarters. It operates 24/7, 365. It has served a wide range of purposes in its lifespan here in Alta. The town's operated out of Alta Central since 1973. It was the admin building until we built the town office in 93 or 94, I believe, which is wild to contemplate. Alta Central has structural problems as well. It has frankly really poor accessibility to the building itself. You know, the floor plan was developed long before the ADA wasn't the Americans with Disabilities Act, that is, was in place. And access in the wintertime is via a steep snow-covered or icy road. The facilities master plan recommends that we at least decommission it as a public safety facility. Building code, the building code says we can't do a public safety function in there. If there's no seismic reinforcement, there's no, we can't really say anything credible about its resistance to wildfire, and it is in an avalanche path and built out of dimensional lumber. The recommendation is from the architects is to move the functions from Alpha Central either all to a new building on the site of this one we're in right now, or move part of them to this building and part of the Alta Marshal's office functions to the town office. We'll talk about that more in a bit. Town office, 2,700 square feet. It's in good shape. Designed for avalanche, you know, to take impacts of an avalanche. Still has significant accessibility challenges. The floor plan is a little better, but of course you can't drive to it in the wintertime. And even in the summertime, just access from the outside needs to be improved. So the architects recommended we either keep this as the admin building or remodel it, a significant renovation to turn it into the dispatch center. No, Paul, I think you're asking a question, but you're on.
Yeah, sorry. Can you just refresh me on ADA requirements? Does anything we build new have to be ADA compliant? Do we have to retrofit existing buildings to make them ADA compliant? And then, yeah, if you could just answer those two.
Yes, and we should. Yep. So
what do you mean we should?
Well, I mean, I guess I should say yes. We need to. We need to.
Is there a time within which we have to make existing buildings ADA compliant?
I don't think there's a good answer to that question. You know, I guess what I would say is the way I see this going is that, you know, we decide what's going to go in this new building that will certainly be ADA compliant. And then when we know the future use and function of the town office, we either make relatively minor upgrades to that, or we make more significant upgrades to that, all of which would be ADA compliant. The big question over there at the town office is vehicle access. You know, it's on a steep slope. We typically leave most of the winter snowpack on that steep slope. So we'd have to do a bit more site planning and engineering in order to make that a truly accessible facility year round. And we haven't even gotten that far. So
right. And this isn't, I understand this isn't dispositive, but do we have any disabled employees?
You know, right now, I don't believe we do, in a ski town.
I realize that's irrelevant. I just wanted to understand the sense of urgency. And then the second thing is, do you have any sense for how often disabled people need to come to the town office? How many visits from disabled people, or have you heard somebody say, well, I sent my sister because I'm disabled and I couldn't even get up there?
I would say twice a year we hear from people who, you know, wanted to come to the town office, but either didn't or couldn't because it's a challenge to get to it.
Right.
You know, I've had some other experiences of, folks trying to bring people with them, to town facilities that have accessibility challenges. And, have had sort of a hard time. So it's not been a common problem for us, but there's no reason to assume it won't be. And there's no reason to assume it won't be.
It's coming.
Great,
It's
thank
definitely
you.
coming, and it creates exposure for us. So
Yep.
Chris,
it's an operational issue in the short term, and it's a sustainability issue for us in the long term, I would say.
what does the law say? Is there a threshold of renovations that then require full ADA compliance? And which buildings, I think almost none of our buildings are truly ADA compliant. Which ones have to be upgraded according to the law, and which don't have to be upgraded according to the law?
Yeah, they all have to be updated. They all have to be updated. There is a threshold, but it's pretty low. I mean, we really can't issue a building permit for improvements that don't comply with the ADA, and depending on the existing facility, we can't issue building permits without ADA noncompliance being resolved. So it's a burden, and it's a major weakness for the town.
That kind of doesn't entirely answer the question. I was just wondering, what is the actual threshold? There must be written into the law somewhere, there has to be a threshold after which you must be ADA compliant.
I just can't cite it, Scott. But I would describe it as a low threshold.
I'd appreciate staff figuring out what that is.
Yep.
Scott, I just Googled it and I got an AI answer, which is that state and local government facilities must be ADA compliant. There is no deadline for existing unaltered buildings. Instead, private businesses must remove barriers and it's readily achievable, so forth and so on. Then there's a section called time limits for compliance. There is no grandfather clause that completely exempts older buildings, nor is there a fixed timeline forcing immediate total modernization of unchanged older buildings. Instead, the rules are broken down by building status. And it goes on. This looks to me like it's one of these English/American law things where it's clear as mud.
Yeah.
And the answer is probably there's no deadline until somebody sues you.
I think that's
Which
right.
is the way things seem to work under American law, frustratingly often.
Yep, got it.
Okay, good discussion. So we've talked about some of the shortcomings of our facilities, mostly related to their floor plans and site plans. We do have some significant functional deficiencies, and those were discussed in the facilities master planning process, and then sort of, to the extent they can be solved with new functional spaces of facilities, they were programmed into the test fits. I think we've all spoken at length, we've all discussed at length that the Marshal's Department is the department of the town that has the most pressing deficiencies, facility deficiencies. This picture from the left here is a drone video by the town's own Connor Worth, showing the kind of Alta Central complex. There's Our Lady of the Snow is barely visible. Shallow Shaft is the least visible. I think this was from the weekend before the climax of the March 2023 storm cycle or cycle of storm cycles. So this is a rare condition, but it's similar to the typical winter condition, which shows that Alta Central is sort of the most uphill of these facilities. Marshal's deputies, spend the night when they're on duty at Alta Central. Dispatchers also spend the night, sometimes 2, 3, or more. Dispatchers are at Alta Central overnight. And for Marshal's deputies, when they have to access when they have to respond to a call overnight. They have to walk down this hill, dig out their vehicles parked along the bank here. Sometimes they're kind of entombed in plow debris. If it's a big storm night, there might be interlodge restrictions in effect. They're up to over the boots in deep new snow. So its response times are impaired. It risk injury to employees going in and out of the facility just in normal conditions. And that is not ideal for a police department. We have a lack of truly secure spaces for various law enforcement needs. We have no really, safe and effective location for detention. There are a lot of things the Alta Marshal's office either lacks the facilities or the technical capabilities and expertise to do in-house. That leads us to drive down the canyon, putting deputies out of range, and essentially to lean on other agencies to provide various services or facility type needs to the town. And there's just no formal reason to assume we'll always be able to rely on that kind of support. Finally, we've talked about Alta Central's susceptibility to natural hazards. That's also not sustainable. So, like I said, the test fits incorporate a number of these, a number of concepts for additional functional space for the Marshal's Department that would resolve some of these issues. We'd like for deputies, spending the night in Alta on shift to all be able to park a vehicle indoors. That essentially involves having more quarters in the building that has the garage. So that would be this building that we're in now and a future building on this site. We definitely need a real secure facility for an armory and evidence storage. We kind of get by now. We don't have the level of security we have now. We didn't for a long time. And we need to continue to improve that. We have made some changes. I'll talk about this a little bit more. We've made a couple of changes that were called for in the facilities plan. Just in the last year, we've added an interview room here in the council chambers, and we added another bedroom on the existing floor plan. So this 3,700 square foot figure, which is the amount of additional space that was called for in the facilities plan to satisfy these needs. You could say it's a little bit smaller because we've made these changes. But that's the sort of the top line or the bottom line summary of additional functional spaces programmed into those test bits. The real benefit to adding additional functional spaces and some specific functional spaces in mind is sustainability. These shortcomings are a risk and an exposure to the town. So that's really what we're after in this facilities plan, is simply being able to operate a police department for the foreseeable future. And we're more likely to be able to do so if we can resolve some of these somewhat glaring risks to the department. Any questions on this one? Additional space needs, or the Marshal's Department situation? We do have Mike in the room.
Are there height restrictions on buildings in Alta?
Yes. Yes, there are height restrictions. They're in the zoning ordinance. We'll need to, as part of this workflow, we'll need to create a zoning ordinance for the town's properties. It's been on the list for a long time. The zoning map currently shows them with the zone they had when it was Forest Service land. So we can approach that as we design the new building. That's all I think I need to say about that. But yes, there are typically high restrictions in zoning ordinances, and we have those as well.
Is purchasing a shower shaft location off the table?
Well, I guess it depends how big the table is. I mean, it's certainly been a topic of conversation. You may be aware the owners have some, you know, some plans. They're pursuing a zoning amendment to be able to redevelop it, so.
It's Steve, has anybody, I know it doesn't seem very practical, but has anybody at least come up with the number of what it would take to structurally repair the buildings rather than demolish them? I know it's, does, you know, for all the reasons it doesn't make sense, it's great, but someone's going to ask that question, just so you can do the comparison and justify it. So has anybody come up with that number?
Yes.
Yes, so that is a great deal of the sort of small font back pages of the facilities master plan is all the work product from the facility condition assessment. So we had, like I said, you know, various engineers, a structural engineer, an architect, some other folks come up and assess the building. So we do have recommendations for structural retrofit and other, you know, code compliance upgrades. And we essentially have a cost estimate for those repairs. We have cost estimates for replacement, and the facility condition assessment found that it's either more expensive to do the repairs, or it's, you know, within some small percentage of the cost of replacing it.
I think when the recommendations are made, that might want to be fairly front and center, because the biggest thing you'd expect from people for looking to try and keep the cost low is saying, hey, why can't you just fix it? I think if we can make it clear that that was addressed right from the start, that consideration, that'll go a long way to helping.
Thank you. Okay. So on to the future. This is a slide from the March presentation for anybody who was there. What do we want to build? We want to build a new building on the site of the building we're in right now. That's in kind of the upper right hand corner of this aerial image. The property boundaries, the town's property boundaries, and some of the property boundaries along the highway are visible in this base graphic. They're pretty faint, but if you're interested, you can squint your eyes and try to appreciate. We don't have a very big, we don't have a lot of setback on this property, so that's something to address with the Forest Service going forward. We want to build a new building on this site. We want most or all of the existing functions to remain in the building, and we want to relocate at least the police department function, the police function, or the law enforcement function of the Alta Marshal's office to this site to satisfy some of those challenges we were discussing over the last slide. Beyond that, we will need to make a decision. We need to make decisions about what kinds of additional space, functional space and capabilities we want to provide for the Marshal's office in the new building. And we'll have to decide the future of the town office building. The two options are to keep it, you know, in its sort of existing functional state, which is to provide, you know, the administrative functions of the town, and make some relatively minor upgrades for accessibility, or to remodel it as the dispatch center. Part of the concept there is that administration is a more public-facing function of the town, so that, you know, we just need to we'll need to decide eventually what function of the town is more important to improve accessibility for. And there are some different, you know, there's some price implications of either option. So the test bits. Once again, the test bits are not designs. They're kind of it was the end of the facilities master planning project. It was the last component of the scope of work. They're not designs. They are representations of sort of ideal future conditions as articulated by town staff that mostly include existing functional spaces. There are a couple that got trimmed And then there is functional space that got added to provide Marshall's department functionality. So they're not designs, they're adjacency diagrams. So the architects did a study of what functional spaces need to be adjacent or should be adjacent or don't need to be adjacent. They worked them up into conceptual floor plans with a little very high level 3D massing. And that's all they are. They're, we haven't decided to pursue one or the other. They're really snapshots from a moment in time. It's in all likelihood, a new building on this site will be something besides one or two of either of those two test pits. So on the left, we've got the square footage of the three facilities we're considering here. The total is about 10,500 square feet. Test pit 1 is a new building on this site. The post office building's torn down. Alta Central is at least decommissioned, maybe demolished. New building here on this site with all of the existing functions, minor improvements to the town office for accessibility. The new building on this site would be just under 14,000 square feet. And as drawn up in the test pit, it's $14.5 million with about $100,000 in renovation to the town office. You can see the total cost estimate for both of those. And that would bring the town's total square feet to 16,683,000. Test pit 2 is bigger, it's more expensive, it's more impactful. You know, same fate for Alta Central in the post office building. The new building would again contain the existing functions, contain the police function, so it would include quarters and office space for the marshal and the marshal's deputies. It provides some of those secure facilities, fingerprinting, armory, evidence storage, arrest processing and holding here. And then the town office would become the dispatch center. So the dispatch has a number of quarters. They've got the dispatch center in the dispatch room. They've got sort of a common area break room for when they're not on shift, but they have another shift in 8 hours. Restrooms, that is essentially a living facility because those Alta Central dispatchers are there for as much as 24 hours at a time in normal conditions. So new building on this site, 15,289 square feet for a cost. And this is a total construction cost estimate of $15,674,000. And then a significant renovation to the town office for a total cost of $16,676,000. And that would bring our total square footage up to almost 18,000 square feet. So again, these are concepts. The test pits are concepts for 2 ways the town could meet some of its high-level goals for future facilities. There's no decision represented by either of these. We're most likely going to build something different. Any questions about these? Okay. So some caveats. I've talked through this, but just to hammer it home. So the cost per square foot estimate from the test fit designs is $1,100 per square foot. On one hand, that is a pretty good, that matches some recent comparables for commercial construction at Alta Ski Area and at Snowbird. But it's also a year old, and those comps are at least a year old. And we all know that the costs are going up. We just don't know how to augment that cost per square foot estimate until we get a little bit more into design.
At 20%.
Yeah, we could add 20%, sure. So yeah, 1,330, yeah. Once again, the facilities master plan and the test split don't account for Our Lady of the Snows. The key point there is that Our Lady of the Snows provides a multi-purpose space. So if we're looking for something to cut out of the scope of work on a new building. We could decide to cut the multipurpose room. We're sitting in the existing multipurpose room. We have our public meetings here. It's nice that it's outfitted for public meetings, so we don't have to set, break down and set up, AV equipment and tables and chairs every meeting. But again, this provides us a little bit of flexibility. We've not talked about possible UDOT participation in a new building. UDOT has stored, the Department of Transportation, that is, has stored snow removal equipment and road maintenance equipment at this facility for decades. And we've been in discussions with them recently about participating in a new building financially in terms of design. And then they would, have equipment, storage and maintenance, potentially some quarters in the new building. None of that's been decided. UDOT's generally looking for probably a number of locations to store equipment and personnel up here in Little Cottonwood Canyon. So we've been sort of advancing those discussions. When we move on to a design project, it's likely that they will participate at this time. So that could have an impact on the cost of the project. It would certainly have an impact on the size and the floor plan. But specifically what impacts remains to be seen. On the master plan and the test pits, again, it's over a year old now. We've been making some changes, some nips and tucks to the buildings already. Conditions will change, needs will change. We're gonna have to make compromises. So the test pits are, they're not designed. We're gonna have a different design in the final project. Once again, the town office is not, we need to make some changes to the town office. So we just want to keep that in mind as we consider this new building. Okay, range of costs. So 9 million is well, let me back up. Our bare minimum project is a project to replace what we're currently doing at Alta Central and this building, the post office building. It is about, I think it's 7,750 square feet is the combination of the gross square footage of this building and Alta Central. So a building of that size at $1,100 per square foot is a little over $8,000. We're going to pad that with some expense to upgrade the town office for accessibility, and we get about a $9 million project. All the way in the other end, 18 million, that's bigger than the bottom line number on test fit 2. Maybe we can assume some of that is the 20% cost increase or inflationary factor. So that's a really big range. There's a lot of decision space within it. We are gearing up to do an architectural feasibility and programming study this fiscal year. We've got $100,000 in the budget to do that. The assumptions we would take into that is that we are designing a building at this facility. We do some site planning, we do some geotechnical analysis, maybe a high-level avalanche study. And like I described, we assume that this building would be a little under 8,000 square feet total to provide marshal's office and existing post office building functions. The square footage and cost details in the master planner guidelines only. UDOT will be involved, at least at the outset. At the end of the project, we're going to know what the building is and what it's not. And we'll be further along the path of deciding what happens to the town office. We'll produce some kind of design document sufficient to produce a construction budget estimate. We really need to start to refine the cost for the project, and that's really where the committee comes in. The scope of work's not final, but we're looking to put an RFP out there in the market in the next few weeks. And get that wrapped up kind of in time to be looking at next year's fiscal year budget and capital projects plan. And any questions on this architectural project? Questions or comments? Okay.
Just Chris, a couple of comments. One, my understanding is that the next important step is a site study of the spot that you're sitting in for suitability to build. Has that been commissioned yet? And if not, how long is that going to take to complete? And then the second question is on the UDOT co-build kind of thing. How long a window do you think is open with UDOT to actually, figure out if we're going to cooperate with them or not?
So to the first question, site analysis, I've assumed that's part of this upcoming project. We did get an estimate for geotech and an as-built survey. During the facilities master plan, it was something like 10 grand or maybe even a little bit less. That's not a huge amount of work. Doing an avalanche study, that there's a range of costs that we could assume for that, but I won't get into what I assume the avalanche study will be. But anyways, I do assume they will be part of the scope of this upcoming project. And we'll need to do them before the snow flies, so they would happen right off the bat. Does that answer that question?
I just want to make sure you said you expect to actually do that this summer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Within that, within the project we've budgeted for. So to the next question, I don't know about the window of opportunity. I mean, UDOT, my understanding is UDOT assumes that, they're not looking for one spot to put all this stuff they want to have up in the canyon. So I think they're talking to all the kind of institutional partners, including the ski areas, the Forest Service, and the town. UDOT has plans to build transit facilities in Big Cottonwood. Some of these functions are being provided in those bus stops. The shape and scale of those in Little Cottonwood is less well known. But anyways, so we're moving kind of on our own timeline. They're aware of that. When we're ready, when we have a complete draft of the RFP for this, we're going to meet with them and gauge their interest in participating.
Thanks.
Yep. Okay. A Gantt chart, if you could say that. Here's your shopping mall, map. So the orange Julius is right between, we're right at the beginning of the third quarter. And the key row on this is construction. This graphic shows us starting construction in the second calendar year quarter of 2028. So that's, spring and summer of 2028, which at the moment seems like a reasonable goal. But time does fly up here in Little Cottonwood Canyon, especially in the summer. So we've got a lot of work to do in the meantime. Any questions or comments on that? Okay.
Well, one thing I would say is that it's feasible to build all year round at this site, which is not the case for every place up here.
That's a good point, Mayor. This site is roadside. And some of us may remember the large red tower crane on site at the Snow Pine during the winter of 2017, 2018, which was like a sub 400-inch area. It does happen.
You don't want to pour concrete in the snow.
You're not going to want to pour concrete in the snow. No, for sure. Yeah, definitely. We're not going to want to drive precast up the canyon in the wintertime and, impact traffic. But it's happened before. The Cliff Lodge was built in the winter of 72, 73, which was record breaking or something even. So anyway, that would be more expensive and really sketchy. Okay, just a couple slides on water and sewer. 2.7 million in urgent projects to correct existing system deficiencies on the water system. Priority sewer pipe replacements, 1.3 million. We need to save more for pipeline replacement. But there is not much room to make adjustments to, savings budgets or depreciation funding in our water and sewer budgets. They're really lean. There's really nothing to cut. I'll stand by that statement. So, the only logical thing to do is to raise rates, but, rates are pretty high. They're gonna keep going up to fund these short-term projects. So we've got some decisions to make there. Getting to the end of this section here, so decisions to make about the building. What goes in it? How big is it? What are we gonna do at the town office? How much is it gonna cost and how are we gonna fund it? That's your priority on the committee. And how realistic is this 2028 construction timeline? Water and sewer, we've assumed we pay as we go. We need to consider whether it makes more sense to seek a grant, a state of Utah revolving loan, or some other kind of debt financing. It may be cheaper to do that than to, just subject ourselves to inflation and save as we pay as we go. We just don't know because we haven't run the numbers. The general fund has supported water projects in the past. The general fund is currently reimbursing the water system for some expenses that were born a long time ago. But given the magnitude of need on the systems and the very constrained means of the water and sewer systems, the topic of funding with general plan support general fund support has come up, and we'll need to address that.
Do you want to address like the boundary lines and why that's important?
Yes, I do. So it's a tricky subject because, all property owners within the town boundary pay into the general fund, but not all property owners in the town of Alta pay water and sewer rates to the town of Alta. So taxpayers who get water and sewer from Salt Lake County service area number 3, such as Blackjack, Sugar Plum, are paying into the general fund, but they're not paying water and sewer rates to the town. So that is where the rub comes in with general fund support to the water and sewer system. Does that make sense? This town sewer line goes down the north side of Little Cotton Creek to Hellgate condos, and then it descends into the Snowbird parking lot where it meets the rest of the sewer system. The town's water line also goes down the north side of the canyon. It does provide water. The town provides water to Powder Ridge, and that's the westernmost extent of the town's water system. So Powder Ridge is kind of in its own unique class of getting water from the town and sewer from the service area.
So if I understand correctly, if you recommend a bond be issued in order to repair the sewer, the Blackjack and Sugar Plum folks would have to pay into that bond as Alta residents, even though they would get no benefit from it.
Well, it depends what the bond is against. It's pretty common to issue bonds against utility revenue, and if that's the repayment source, then Blackjack owners would not be paying off that bond. That would just be town of Alta water or sewer ratepayers. Bonds, we've talked mostly about a general obligation bond. We talk about a little bit this more in the future. But governments issue debt against all different kinds of revenues. We're talking about a GO bond because it's a strong option for several reasons, but it's by no means the only option. So it depends, Scott, what revenues we bond against.
Okay.
And what project it is. Yeah, exactly. That's the end of my slides about facilities planning. It's 12:20. Questions or comments?
That's a great overview. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. Town of Alta Capital Committee. Molly, what is the acronym?
Citizens Advisory Panel to improve the town of Alta.
Citizens Advisory Panel to improve the town of Alta. You guys are free to change your name. I think we negotiate with the council. We did focus group this one, and I think it tested really well. So, Paul.
It's a brilliant name. Really, really
Thank you.
good.
The concepts in the focus group are not safe for work. They're NSW. Anyway. Okay, so what are we gonna do on the committee? Just a high level summary of the purpose. We're reviewing proposals for capital improvements. We're reviewing project budgets and funding sources, and we're making recommendations to the committee. We recommend the committee focus on the funding because the budget really determines what we can do. These projects are most likely funded by water and sewer rates or town of Alta taxpayer dollars, maybe property tax. There may be bonds against sales tax or other revenues that we can issue. But for the only safe assumption here is that we're funding these projects with taxpayer taxes or water and sewer rates.
And I would add philanthropy to that.
True. Well, we do have some other options besides those. How to fund these projects again, taxes, we'll talk about that. The town assumed for a long time that philanthropic donations would support a new community center building. There were a couple efforts to gauge interest or start to sort of generate that support. Most recently I believe it was 2021, the town conducted a feasibility study to fundraise for a new community center. And I think what we found is generally that there is the possibility of raising funding for a new project if it's the right project. There are grants out there, I'm not aware of a grant that's suitable for the kinds of projects we're looking into, which is not to say there aren't any. I mean, the world of grants is vast. We really we don't have a grant writer at the town. It takes a lot of work, but we ought to do some due diligence on grants, I would say. We talked about bonds. Again, there's a lot to say about bonds. We've talked about general obligation bonds. Those would raise property taxes on Alta properties, during the term of the loan. They're voter approved. So, there's some risk there in planning to use a general obligation bond. But they have the lowest rates. They're the least subject to volatility and economic volatility, which, we are certainly exposed to here in Alta for sales tax revenue. So that's why we're thinking carefully about those. There's no reason why we couldn't bond against various different revenues. Like I said before, I think it's not unlikely we might try to do that depending on the magnitude of the project and the nature of it. We will have money in savings. We currently have over $1 million in the Town of Alta Capital Projects Fund. It's likely we'll continue to have that much, or it's really likely we'll have more, I would say, at this time. And that's all currently programmed to this new building. So it is safe to say that we can, take at least $1 million off the top of any cost estimates we come up with here in the short term. Water and sewer rates. We've saved up and paid as we go as of now, but it's a good time to consider whether there's another avenue we should take.
Is there a vehicle set up for a 501(c) donation system? What people would donate?
To the town?
Yeah.
I don't believe so. Have you contemplated that?
I have contemplated in the past. I would need to look into it and see again.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, we're really moving through the agenda now. This has been a long lecture by Chris Colley, town manager, and I regret that. I'd really like to hear from you all about, what you all need to know to help us start answering these questions. Staff needs to know whether to look into the possibility of, philanthropic donations to fund projects. I think we've been assuming lately a police department building may not be as, sort of much of a sparkling object as a community building. I will say that our architects told us that it's actually fairly common to for donations to be used to fund public safety buildings. There's a story in the Tribune for the last week about the city of Ivans using a $2 million donation to expand their fire department building down there. So anyway, it does happen. We know there is some potential in town. We'd like to know from the committee whether we ought to do some due diligence on that upfront. Likewise with grants. Again, we're not aware of grants to fund, general municipal buildings or police department buildings, but they may very well be out there. A key responsibility of the committee, an element of its purpose, is to keep in mind and help us understand whether the community is likely to support these projects, especially, but not only in the case that we issue a GO bond. The project's dead in the water if the community doesn't support it. So we need your feedback as to whether we're making the right case, as to whether we're making the right ask, stating the right goals, and so forth. We need to, Craig, if I don't highlight this enough, I trust that Craig will we'll bring it up again before the end of our time here today. We really need to address this topic of a general fund bond. We need to start to address that and understand it better now. We need to understand what is a reasonable amount, or what could be a reasonable amount for taxpayers to support. And then, again, we've talked a little bit about water and sewer projects. It may be easier to take action on some other approach to funding these because the projects are known. There's no architectural feasibility study to do. It's pretty clear our 56-year-old water and sewer systems need a lot of work. There are existing deficiencies to correct. We've got planning level designs for those. We just need to decide how and when to fund them. So these are our needs on staff, and I'm hoping you all can provide us some guidance in this meeting or in the future.
Kind of way.
Yeah. So
Chris, I'll kick off with a couple of comments. Number one, you mentioned another town that had received a donation for a new firehouse. Probably be worth your picking up the phone and calling the town manager and finding out how that came about. Generally, these things happen because somebody developed a strategy and worked hard to solicit grants and approach people. So any situations like that you've heard of, it would be probably worthwhile to follow up and find out what they did to catalyze that. Second thing is with respect to grants, I wonder if there isn't some systematic way to find out what grants are available, whether there isn't a federal database of grants, whether it's done by function, like public safety. There may be a database in the Justice Department of grants for municipal public safety improvements. I just did a Google search and several things came up, several programs came up. So I think Jen or somebody on the staff who's facile with digging down in the internet could spend a couple hours seeing what they come up with. If grants are passed by Congress and the money is allocated, I would think they generally want people to take advantage of them, and therefore they make them as available as possible, and they make it as easy as possible to find out about them. with respect to community support, that's a tough one. And, I'm always very skeptical about these philanthropic feasibility studies. They're expensive, and the way to find out if somebody wants to give you money ultimately is not to ask them whether they would consider giving you money, but it's to ask them for money. So I think, I don't know how we get to the bottom of that one, other than word of mouth and talking to people and thinking about what well-heeled residents we have that that make Alta their home and really love it and might consider doing something eleemosynary.
I think, Paul, that is very important. And one of the things that we've learned from a recent situation that you and I share here on this side of the world is the openness and transparency with which the people who are going to be asking for the money communicate with the various constituents is extremely important. The frequency of communication, the quality of the communication, the completeness of the communication is extremely important.
I have a couple of
Going to have a lot more data to even start communicating with anybody. I mean, just, a number of 9 million versus 16 million isn't going to get us anywhere at the present time.
For sure.
I have a couple of questions in regards to, at the end of the day, the taxpayers, whether it's sewer and water or the facilities for the town. What kind of, at the end of the day, some of these buildings are just going to fall apart, and the town council and the mayor are going to say these things need to be replaced. And it's unclear to me how a taxpayer in Alta can stand up and block what needs to be done. That's kind of just a floating question in my head. But from a funding point of view, in regards to both matters, water and sewer, and then the buildings that we need, data is going to be somewhat important. The water that is consumed by a condo or homeowner collectively versus the water that is consumed by our inns and Alta ski lifts, that data is going to be important in trying to figure out who's paying, and whether who's paying is fair and representative to the community as a whole. And that data, I don't have a handle on. How much Alta ski lift uses, how much do the condos use, how much do the inns use. There's also obviously a component to when you're supplying water to the inns and to the ski lift corporation, that requires a more robust program, I would think, than just the condos and homeowners. And then from, again, data for the Marshals program and paying for that, how much of the responses that the Marshal and his program supplies goes to the residents, the condo owners and the homeowners, versus the transient business of Alta, which are all the people that come up and stay at the inns and the lodges, and also the summer traffic. That kind of data is going to be important in regards to justifying where this committee and the town points the finger in regards to funding. I would just offer 2 cents that there might be some constituents who would help, particularly with the building, but at the end of the day, might not be a single resident in the town that would step forward and offer some beneficial funding. And at the end of the day, then that's going to fall on the town to fund all of this stuff.
Jen is gone.
Well, do you want me to address what he was just saying, just to offer a
Sure,
little
yeah,
bit?
oh yeah, definitely, no, I have
So,
things in mind, so.
water and for sewer, both of those systems are based on ECU values, which are equivalent capacity units. So basically, the way we budget for those systems is we take every, so a single family residence has an ECU value of 1.25. And then basically what you do is in a lodge, you say, what's the equivalent capacity of the lodge versus a single family home? Like how many homes would fit in the lodge? So, you know, the hotels are gonna have ECU values of like 40 or something like that. They're all over the place here in town, depending on what their survey was and how they each fixture and all those sort of things. So basically, the point of that is that everybody's paying their portion. So we take, you know, it costs $300,000 to operate one of the systems. You take the number of ECU values and you divide it into $300,000. And basically that's how we come up with our rates on a really simple explanation. Hopefully that makes sense. Your second point was about, what was the second point?
Disproportionate use by transient.
Oh, the other thing I wanted to note was that actually we just engaged in a business license study. And so, Murray, I think some of those questions you were just asking will be answered with the data that we're doing in the business license study, which will be ready sometime in probably, let's say, September.
And how much of the community relies on the Marshal services for the homeowners and condo owners versus transient members of the community, those people who come up and stay in the lodges both day, which would be more on an Alta ski lift consideration, and then also those that come up and stay at the lodges.
Yeah, I will give some insights to that here soon.
When we look at the water and sewer, that's a very small number compared to the building needs. And it was my understanding that there's a minimum charge for water use, regardless of whether you consume that minimum charge or not. Is that not correct?
Yes.
So in fact, usage is somewhat subsidized by a minimum charge for the condo and homeowners, because I'm guessing that many of them do not, over the course of a year, certainly on a monthly billing, consume the water that they're being charged for.
Let's say that's a fair statement.
Yeah.
And in part, how the system was designed due to the transient nature of some of our owners and making sure that we had a reliable revenue source.
But with all the meters and it's not an issue for me that we all pay a minimum price regardless of whether we consume that minimum or not. What I'm more interested in are the consumption numbers for Alta ski lifts and the lodges. Are they actually representative of what's really going on? And it sounds like they are.
I would say so.
Can you speak to commercial versus residential?
It's the same. It didn't used to be. The commercial actually used to be less than the residential, and under Harris's administration, we changed that and made it equal for everybody. Yeah, the commercial units were actually paying less than residential. Before we made that change about 6 years ago.
So my consideration or point was that, in fact, what we deliver from a water and sewer point of view has to be much more robust when you consider the commercial and ski traffic versus just supplying water and sewer for the owners up here, the condo and homeowners. That makes sense.
Yep. Definitely.
So perhaps a conversation should take place on whether or not the commercial component pays a slightly bigger price because of the robustness that's required to handle all of it.
and the amount of wear and tear on the system because of the much greater use of it.
I say something about the disproportionate use by transients. Yeah, in the fire protection realm, it has been recognized that much of their services, which are really EMT services, go to visitors rather than residents. And to compensate for that, rather than having the residents, property owners pay for that, the county has been for some time putting essentially a money into that to supplement that EMT service. I don't think anybody's ever thought of doing something similar for the police, but you know, in concept, it may apply.
That's why some data emanating from the marshal's operation would be helpful in regards to, at the end of the day, at the end of a year, 20 or 30% of my, I'm just pulling numbers out of the air, 20 or 30% of my response and time could be put on the tab of condo and homeowners. 50% is transient daily business, and another X amount of percent are people who are in the lodges, transients in the lodges. Again, just trying to have some sense of
Dale Parsons or one.
I think we're good.
I mean, the concept you're suggesting, Murray, is the user should pay for the service. And it's,
well,
and you need to sort out who the users of that service are. And that data may be possible to acquire.
At the end of the day, what this committee and what the town is faced with is justifying A, the expenses that are going to be proposed, and then B, coming up with a way that represents of equity and fairness in how those how that funding is accomplished.
Right.
There's a pretty good start at answering some of these questions about water and sewer anyway in the annual budget presentation that's online that I'd encourage everybody to take a look at.
I appreciate that note, Paul. We previously assumed we would do a little bit of an intro to, you know, the town's budget and what our revenues are and, you know, what services we provide. We removed that, you know, we may want to include some content of that nature at a future meeting.
Yeah, I think you can just send it as a handout or send the link. People can read it on their own. And then if they have any questions, they can call Greg Highmark at 3 a.m.
He's on Pacific time, remember, so
I will adjust. So is this helpful, Chris, in terms of setting some direction for information gathering for the staff?
Yeah, I think in general, I'm hearing a desire.
I mean, I think with respect to Murray's comments, I think we understand that towns have to serve everyone, and they're never going to get. You can't meter everything. You can't, you know, if somebody has a fire truck come to their house, you can't say, all right, that'll be $800. There's some general spreading of expenses, but it should be defensible and somewhat proportionate so that when we do talk to citizens, they feel like an effort was made to allocate expenses proportionate to usage.
I think I just lost audio. The rest of you hear anything?
I can, oh, I think we lost the town.
Yeah, I think they froze.
Yeah, me too. Where's Mr. Chairman? There he is.
We lost our internet. We lost our internet in the library, but it's back up. Hopefully we're not headed, we had a long-term power outage about 2 weeks ago, so hopefully we're not getting some ripples in the line. So anyway, generally I'm hearing a desire for, how are we doing? It looks like our video is, everybody hear me?
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
hear you.
Hear you just fine. Yep.
So I'm
And we
hearing a
can-
desire for more.
We can see each other moving. We just can't see you moving.
Well, I'm barely moving, so, because it's pretty hot. So I'm hearing a desire for more information about, general consumption of services between, different properties and property owners, different classes of users and property owners. Jen pointed out we're doing a business license study that will yield some information about that. We tuned the scope of work specifically to try to address more than we have in the past, this disproportionate impact or enhanced level of service question. So we have some answers to that question pretty soon, like potentially within the next 4 to 6 weeks. We do have data. We've certainly got reams of water and sewer data. So we can provide a little bit more substance to support that conversation. And I do think some kind of high level, I mean, we'll certainly send out the budget presentation. I appreciate Paul's comments on that. So we can send out the budget presentation, and it seems like we should be prepared to make that a quick presentation on highlights in the next meeting. So I'm trying to log into the meeting here. Are you able to share your screen, Molly?
I am.
Okay, so let me just bring that presentation back up. Okay, so I heard, a general interest in at least a due diligence approach to grants and philanthropy. I think that's prudent. I think in my opinion, the town needs to take a kind of all of the above assumption at this time. So I guess, the next item on the agenda is a conversation about, meeting schedule, next meeting. It's probably like, how it won't pull up the image.
Hey, Chris,
Yes,
one more comment on that effort to show people the splits on usage of things like water, sewer, police, and so forth, and that is revenue. So just maybe Greg could produce a very brief thing that shows by those same categories, residential versus lodging versus ski area, day-to-day transit, and not just the expense side, but the revenue side. Because ultimately what we're trying to defend is that there is some, within about half a furlong matching of the two. But we need to see the revenue side as well.
that's a key point. I think that's something we could easily address in a small handful of slides on our existing budget. I know Paul and I spoke on the phone the other day, and I'll just reiterate that the town is about 60% supported by sales taxes or similar revenues paid by visitors. And that more than covers the police department budget as it is already. Now, that doesn't get into capital necessarily. until we start to exceed our revenue projections and save money in the capital fund. But there are a number of ways to kind of slice and dice that question about,
Yeah,
you know.
that'd be great. Just so we can see a matching of sources and uses. Thank you.
I think I'm getting
So
better.
next meeting, how frequently do you want to have these meetings? When do you want to have the next one? September?
I'm gonna be out of town in September, for the middle portion of the month. The week before I leave, we have a council meeting. Of course, we've got Labor Day before that. So we could meet in late August. And there are a number of things we could do in that meeting. You've got the screen up. Okay. Do you want to go down to that next slide, Molly?
To share it first.
Okay. So, basically the gist is that, we can bring information responsive to this conversation to a meeting in August. If we wait until October, we'll have more to say about the design.
We lost you again, Chris.
October. How does that strike you all?
We couldn't hear you, Chris, for the last minute. or so.
How about now?
Now it
Now we
works.
can hear you.
Sorry, everybody. My recommendation would be early October. Again, I'll be out of town in September. I think if we wait till October, we will be further down the line on a couple of key efforts. One being next slide. One being the architecture project. Another being an engagement with a municipal advisor. We are entering into a contract with Zions Public Finance to advise us. We're primarily on issuing debt and all the ways to do that. So by October, we may we will have an architecture project online. We will have begun this engagement with Zions Public Finance. So we may have just a little bit more to discuss.
Well, Chris, the committee serves at your pleasure, the town's pleasure, and it's to advise you. So we'll leave it to you when you have enough meat on the bones for another meeting to get some advice. I would suggest that more frequent and shorter meetings would be better.
Yeah.
And I'd be very pleased if we could aim to limit our meetings to an hour and a half.
Okay.
August is tough, but if you have an hour and a half meeting, I think a lot of people will be able to make it in late August, and you could have another one in October. Why don't you come up with 2 or 3 proposed dates and send them out by email and see what reaction you get from people. And if you get, more than a quorum, you can go with it.
That sounds like a good approach.
Okay. What else
I think
we got?
I think that, I think the next item on the agenda, Mr. Chair, is other business and open discussion. Anything else from the committee? Questions, comments? Offers?
Anybody?
Just one thought, Chris. I think some of the questions around, the ADA access, I don't remember us pricing what it would cost to do that for the town office building. If it's buried in the architectural study, I think I missed it. If we don't know that, we're probably going to need to know that pretty quickly in order to make some of the decisions you're looking for.
I appreciate you bringing that up, Craig. That actually is priced into those test fits. The test fit one is where we leave the town office at as the admin building, and as of compilation of that report, it was a little over $100,000. So So we do have a baseline. We do have a, starting point for that.
Yep. And that's presumably the capital cost only, although I would assume we'd have to plow the road too, which is a OpEx, right?
Well, that would be, total construction costs. So that's that $1,100 per square foot number.
Yep.
But it does not assume any changes to the road, any operations, and, snow maintenance changes. It would take some doing to get a vehicle to that building. And we'll save my ideas for how we could do that for another meeting. Those costs would potentially be significant, and they're not represented in our current cost numbers. Just the changes to the building, to clarify, so.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, next time. We got one item left, Mr. Chair.
Yep, let's go for it.
I move to adjourn.
Second,
Scott?
anybody
Yep.
opposed? All right,
Need
motion
a second.
carries. Brilliant, Mr. Vice Chair.
Who seconded the motion?
Jim.
Second, Jim. Thank you, Jim.
One present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Give me a
all in
call
favor,
anytime.
Nobody opposed, right?
Nobody opposed.
Aye. I'm not a
Meeting is
member.
adjourned.
Meeting is adjourned.
All right, good. Thank you,
you.
Chris.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
How's your AC, Lindsay?
Yeah, it got fixed, so it's a little bit cooler in here now.